This is the story of a kid with no papers, no money, and no plan B, who somehow ended up training on the same pitch as Alan Shearer, sharing a locker room at St. James Park, and getting career advice from David Beckham and Zinedine Zidane themselves. This is Goal, the dream begins. In a dusty neighborhood in Mexico, a boy named Santiago lives for soccer. Sticks for goalposts, a ball worn smooth from use, but touched by something that can't be taught. That world ends one night in the desert. Crossing the border with his family, chased by Border Patrol, Santiago drops his ball mid-sprint. He turns back for it. His father yanks him forward instead. He leaves it behind, and with it, the only thing that ever felt like his. Years later, Santiago is a teenager in Los Angeles, working the same gardening jobs as his father, Hernan, by day, and washing dishes at a Chinese restaurant by night. The 1 hour that belongs to him is the hour he spends on a local field. And there, he's unstoppable. One night he tears apart a league match, gliding past defenders like they're standing still. Then he clocks in for his shift. The gap between who he is on the pitch and who he has to be off, it keeps widening. That performance catches the eye of Glenn Foy, a retired English scout who's seen enough football to know real talent when it walks past him. He tells Santiago he could go pro and promises to bring a sports agent to his next game. Santiago runs home with the news, hoping for once his father will be proud. Instead, Hernan shuts it down flat. Dreams are a luxury they can't afford, not when survival is the only job that matters. Santiago says nothing. He doesn't have to. The agent never shows. He's at a pool party and forgets entirely. Furious but undeterred, Glenn watches Santiago deliver the performance of his life anyway, then does something drastic. That same night, he calls Eric Dornhelm, head coach of Newcastle United, and won't let him hang up until he agrees to give an unknown kid from LA a trial. When Glenn breaks the news, Santiago and his grandmother can barely believe it. For the first time, the dream feels less like something to survive and more like something that might actually happen. Santiago spends months saving every dollar for a plane ticket, working himself to exhaustion. He's almost there, until he comes home one night and finds the money gone. Hernan took it, certain that ending the dream now is a mercy. It isn't the money Santiago can't forgive. It's being reminded, again, that the person he needs most doesn't believe in him. Then his grandmother does something quiet and enormous. She hands him a plane ticket of her own, presses her necklace into his palm for luck, and tells him to leave before his father comes home. He does. In England, Glenn takes him straight to Newcastle's training ground. Real grass, a real stadium, a dream made suddenly, dizzyingly physical. Eric is unconvinced but agrees to a trial. What he doesn't know is that Santiago is hiding asthma, sneaking his inhaler before stepping onto the pitch. In pouring rain, against players faster and rougher than anything back home, Santiago slips, misses passes, and looks nothing like the player Glenn promised. Eric walks away without a word. Santiago sits alone afterward, wondering if he's already lost the only shot he'll ever get. Glenn won't let one bad trial be the whole story. He corners Eric at a dinner and argues the weather, not the kid, failed that day, and wins him a second chance. This time, Santiago stops trying to impress and starts trying to learn, earning respect one session at a time. At his medical exam, he lies about his asthma to a nurse named Roz rather than risk being cut before he started. He also makes his first real friend at the club, Jaime, and for one evening out with them both, he finally lets himself feel like a normal 20-year-old instead of a kid fighting for his life. Eric pulls him aside with a different kind of lesson. Newcastle doesn't run on individual brilliance. It runs on players who play for each other. Santiago sees it proven days later, watching from the stands as the club's biggest star, Gavin Harris, showboats his way through a match against Chelsea until Eric subs him off and the team scores within minutes. Talent turns heads. Only teamwork wins games. Inspired, Santiago starts arriving before dawn to work on his shooting alone. Eric notices, not just the talent now, but the discipline behind it, and it earns Santiago a place in the reserve squad. Back home, his grandmother delivers the news to Hernan with pride. He says nothing back. Roz, when Santiago tells her, is the one who actually celebrates with him. Before his first reserve match, a jealous teammate spots Santiago's inhaler in the locker room and crushes it under his boot when no one's looking. Santiago doesn't realize until it's too late. On the pitch, the cold air turns his lungs against him. Every sprint heavier than the last, his touch gone, his passes falling apart. Eric has no idea why the kid who trained flawlessly all week suddenly can't keep up and subs him off. Afterward, the club cuts him loose. With nothing left to lose, Santiago finally tells Roz the truth. The asthma, the inhaler, the release, all of it. He tells her he's going home. She can't understand why he'd quit now, after everything. In the middle of that argument, something shifts between them, and before he leaves, they kiss. Santiago is in a taxi to the airport when fate, in the form of a hungover Gavin Harris running late for training, climbs into the same cab. Santiago tells him everything on the ride. It's enough to make even careless, arrogant Gavin realize the kid deserves better than this. He goes straight to Eric and tells him what actually happened. Santiago wasn't lazy, he couldn't breathe. Eric listens, goes quiet, and makes a call that changes everything. Santiago isn't going home. He's getting one more chance. That chance is all he needs. The pressure that once overwhelmed him now fuels him. Sharper touches, cleaner passes, the player everyone always said he could be. He scores, then scores again days later, and the unknown kid from Los Angeles becomes one of the most talked about young players in England. Life in England starts catching up to the dream. Santiago gets his own apartment, invites Roz over, and takes in Gavin, now his unlikely roommate, and slowly his friend. When he calls home to share the news, his little brother answers, thrilled. Hernan won't come to the phone. Every win Santiago earns still can't buy the one thing he actually wants. Soon he's training alongside the club's biggest names, including Alan Shearer, and gets named to the bench for his first Premier League match. When a Newcastle player goes down injured, Eric calls his name. He steps onto the pitch in front of a roaring stadium, and 4,000 miles away, in a quiet LA bar, Hernan looks up at a television and sees his son wearing a Premier League shirt. For the first time, something in him gives way. Santiago plays with a composure that belongs to someone twice his age, wins a crucial penalty, and watches Gavin bury it to seal the win. That night, David Beckham himself congratulates him at dinner, a surreal moment for a kid who once chased a worn-out ball through dusty streets. But the higher he climbs, the more there is to lose. Gavin talks him into a night out that turns into tabloid headlines the next morning, cameras catching Santiago at his worst. Eric tears into him without listening. Roz sees the photos and shuts him out, convinced he's become exactly the player she warned him not to be. Furious, Santiago turns on Gavin, warning him everything they've built can vanish overnight if they don't take it seriously. Gavin doesn't want to hear it. Then the real blow lands. Santiago's younger brother finds Hernan collapsed on the lawn. A heart attack. His grandmother makes the call. His father is gone. Days later, Newcastle's biggest match of the season arrives, and Santiago faces an impossible choice. Fly home for the funeral, or stay and fight for everything he's sacrificed to build. He stays. His grandmother tells him gently that playing is exactly what his father would have wanted, even if he never once said so out loud. Newcastle faces Liverpool for a place in the Champions League, and Santiago plays like a man with nothing left to protect. He sets up Gavin for the opening goal. Liverpool answers with two of their own. With the game slipping away, Santiago finds Gavin again to level it. And then in the final minutes, the ball breaks loose at his feet. He doesn't think. He shoots. It's in. Newcastle wins. The Champions League dream. His dream is real. As the pitch erupts around him, Glenn presses a phone into his hand. His grandmother is on the other end, fighting back tears. Before Hernan died, she tells him, he watched the match, saw his son in that shirt, playing at the highest level the sport has to offer, and for the first time, he was proud. Every sacrifice, every year of doubt, every mile from a dusty field in Mexico to this exact moment, it was never wasted. The boy who once left his ball behind in the desert finally got to keep the thing that mattered. And that's how a kid with a torn-up ball and a stolen dream ended up lifting a Champions League spot for Newcastle United. If you enjoyed this recap, smash that subscribe button, hit the like, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. See you in the next video.